What's up, fight fans? Welcome back to Sportskeeda MMA news. A former UFC fighter discloses the person who should have beaten Adesanya. Sean Strickland's afraid of getting Gina Carano'd at UFC 276 press conference. Raquel Pennington SLAMS media outlets for confusing her with Amber Heard's friend. Sean O'Malley discloses the name of his next potential opponent. Joe Rogan supports Ron DeSantis as president. Find out on today's edition of Sportskeeda MMA news. Yeah, it's popular to not like Brendan Shaw because he dresses funny and is hygienic, but fans must admit that he's a great news source, especially in regards to one of the many segments he does, Food Truck Diaries. In a recent episode, he took former UFC fighter, Green Beret, and now author Tim Kennedy out for some wings with the bone in. That's important. And of course, Israel Adesanya got brought up. Tim Kennedy details who he thought could beat Adesanya, and that is former opponent Yoel Romero. He said,
Yoel could have been the guy that put the pressure on to pick some angles and to mess with timing, but he didn't. Yoel just hung back and fought one of the worst championship fights ever.
Rather than making the most out of his advantages, Romero just sat back. Kinda like that time he stayed on his stool for too long, huh, Tim? Kennedy further elaborated on what he could have done to defeat Stylebender.
Like the Khabib style of, you don't know if I'm gonna take you down. Maybe I'm gonna hit you with a big overhand right as I change levels. Maybe I'm gonna come in and push up Kip's cage. Nobody's done that to him.
So yeah, if you were to ask Tim Kennedy who would have defeated Adesanya, it would be Yoel Romero, but Romero did what Romero does and he left people scratching their heads. Also, yes, they were bone-in wings. Is Tim Kennedy right? Could Romero have defeated Adesanya? Let us know in the comments. UFC fighter, former Twitter account user, and maybe the most lovable, hateable person in the UFC has had media obligations lately and he's making the most out of it. One thing that stood out amongst the many rants and verbal tirades he went on was that he admitted to something he's scared of. What is it? Well, it's the ESPN overlords, of course. Strickland is a touch on the offensive side, and a punishment for that is your whole reputation being capsized. A prime example of this is Gina Carano'd. After making some remarks that left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, she lost her gig as a star in The Mandalorian, which is a pretty big deal. So will Strickland learn from Gina and know not what to do? Let's check.
I got some bad fucking news. The UFC wants me a part of the press conference. And I'm a little fucking scared, and I'll tell you why I'm scared. Because I'm not talking to you social degenerates on Instagram. I'm talking to the overlords, ESPN, fucking Walt Disney, man. And if I up and I say something wrong, I'm gonna get Gina Carano'd, and I don't want that. So I really need to sit there and just shut the up. I might even bring headphones and just loud music the whole time.
What many would consider a great step towards gaining fans, Strickland knows himself a bit too well and thinks he might sabotage himself with one of his tone-deaf sound-offs. Regardless, we'll be looking forward to seeing Strickland at the press conference. Hopefully he and Adesanya could talk about anime. If you're excited for UFC 276, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any news leading up to the event. Also follow our social media pages. We post new content daily and we'll make sure you're always in the know. While it's not Sean Strickland mad about something in the news this time, we've still got that base covered. Raquel Pennington, the fighter and fiancée to Tecia Torres, is getting a bit heated that people keep confusing her with Raquel Pennington, friend of Amber Heard. After deeply looking into how this confusion is happening, we've learned that it's because they share the same name. Regardless, the two can easily be told apart from one another with the slightest amount of research, but fans and media sources aren't taking the time to do so. Not just aggressive messages from Johnny Depp fans, but headlines from actual news sources are connecting UFC fighter Pennington to the infamous Amber Heard. Rocky took to Twitter to blow off some steam. This is starting to piss me off that people's jobs are to report news, but they can't even get their facts straight. If you're so invested in something, you should know what you're talking about. I don't have to do with this situation. It's another Raquel Pennington. What do you think of this confusion? Sound off in the comments. The Sugar Show returns this weekend at UFC 276. Sean O'Malley will be taking on his toughest opponent yet, Pedro Munoz. Munoz is 1-4 in his last 5, but don't let this fool you. The 4 losses are at the hands of champions, current and former. Furthermore, he's never been finished. O'Malley has his attention set on Pedro, but that doesn't mean he can't map out his trajectory after this fight. Sean wants to stay busy and fight once more this year, probably in November or December. When discussing his future plans, he said,
"Yeah, I would love to fight again. One more time by the end of the year, November, December will be a great time frame. And there's a lot of big fights playing out. The Cheeto Dominic Cruz fight, it's something I'm looking at. Little Russian dudes running around. Might beat him up. Fabrant, he's out there. There's a bunch of guys out there that could potentially be my next fight."
Sean then reiterated that he needs to focus on the task at hand, which is Munoz. Should he get the nod, Sugar should find himself in the top 10 of the bantamweight division, which is one of the most talent-steeped sections in the UFC to date. We all know at least one diehard O'Malley fan. Share this video with them and make their day. Alright Rogan, what do you have for us today? Joe Rogan had Gina Carano'd on his podcast recently. They discussed a wide variety of topics, but her potential bout against Rousey stood out the most. Beyond that, things got a bit political. Rogan took a jab at the President of the United States, Joe Biden, by calling him a dead man. Carano asked the host if he had anyone in mind who he would support, to which he said,
"Yeah, so all this stuff is happening while we have a dead man as a president. You know, it's just
Are you throwing out any?
It's not fun. Yeah, I think Ron DeSantis would work as a good president. I mean, what he's done for Florida has been admirable. I feel like what he did for Florida, a lot of people gave him a lot of grief, but ultimately he was correct.
This is largely in reference to how DeSantis dealt with the COVID-19 virus. Florida handled the pandemic a bit lighter than many other places. As a matter of fact, the UFC's first full-capacity event since the worldwide shutdown was UFC 261, which was hosted in Jacksonville, Florida. Thank you, Gina, for getting this breaking news out there. Have you any thoughts on this? That about does it for Sportskeeda MMA news. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already and follow us on our social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. Until next time. A man of culture indeed. Yes, he's scared. If you like this video, please like, comment, and share. Your comments could be featured in the next Sportskeeda MMA news video. We always deliver daily content, so make sure you subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss anything going on in the MMA world. For updates, quotes, and exclusive interviews from all your favorite fighters, follow Sportskeeda MMA on Twitter and Instagram. Thanks for tuning in.